Go. We should be live on the YouTube now. Happy Teacher's Day. Is it Teacher's Day over there? Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Teacher's Day here is usually in, I think, June? I'm sure it's like June or maybe May. I'm not sure. But thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Go. Okay, I think we should be good to go now. We should be good. Yeah, there you go. May 15 is usually Teacher's Day for us over here in Mexico. See, this month is important for Mexico because we celebrate Independence Day. It's one of the big months of the year in terms of like national, what's the word? National things, national holidays. Am I gonna have pozole? Definitely. I love pozole, man. My mom makes a very nice red pozole. So I hope she does it this year as well. Manaf Kashikar says, Happy Teacher's Day as well here on YouTube. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Thank you very much. I think we're almost ready to go. There we go. Atmosphere sound that we get from the... Lower the music a little bit for you guys. You know, if we can still hear the music. Yongi Mean says, Happy Teacher's Day. Is it like International Teacher's Day? Teacher's Day. No, International Teacher's Day is on October 5th. So I'm guessing this is only a national thing for you guys. But thank you. Thank you very much. By Yongi Min, by Chai China, 1211. Okay. What do you guys say if you let me finish my coffee while we just talk a little bit before we start, right? Just 5 more minutes. A little bit of relaxing time. Oh no, I feel like this week was very intense in terms of you know, stuff. Like not for, well, I mean, we had some cool stuff on the channel. Do you guys see the latest video? We talked about texturing the environment asset that we were working on, but did a lot of stuff here on the house. Thankfully, hopefully, they're gonna finish renovations this weekend. So, at that point, what's the word? At that point, we're all gonna going back to normal. So, them ads prevent me from seeing what, man? You got like an ad at the beginning of this thing. Marius Geldenhaus says, Hi, Ave, really have been loving the recent YouTube shorts. Thank you, my friend. You should thank Alan as well. Alan is the one who's been in charge of the video editings, and he's been doing an amazing job with the shorts. I actually forgot to upload the short yesterday and today, but we're gonna pick them up back tomorrow. We got a lot of shorts ready for you guys. My room looks like a cave. It's supposed to look like a dungeon more than a cave, but yeah, it's this is the studio. So this is where I come to record and where I have my main like a work computer. So yeah, I wanted to make it, you know, a little bit special. Make sure that it was a little bit different than the usual bookshelves. I like the bookshelves though. I like when I had my bookshelves. But yeah, there we go. We got David here in the chat as well. What it is with this thing. There we go. There we go. Monroe! What's up, my friend? We got Snake P2, 2PTO as well. Once I finish with your house, you need to do that cooking stream you've talked about. Yeah, we definitely are gonna do the grilling stream. The carne asada stream to celebrate. Gamer says, today I see your Substance Painter texture to Maya. Really helpful trick. Thank you. You're welcome. Did you use the Substance Painter plugin? I'm guessing you did. Probably what you're talking about. Let's see. A burger. I'm not sure if I was gonna do a burger. I kind of want to do carne asada, just like grilled meat. Some tacos. That would be fun. I thought the frog looked bad first, but that would look so good. I'm a noob at sculpting. I mean, it's not ready yet. The hell? There we go. That's not ready yet, but we did do a good push last time. I think we are in a good position. Let me just get the reference real quick. So the concept, as we mentioned last time, is from an amazing artist. His name is Vyacheslav Safronov from Russia. If you guys wanna check his stuff, right here. There we go. So Vyacheslav Safronov, amazing artist. It looks very classical. This is the kind of concept art that I personally really like. It's not extremely great for production sometimes because there's some areas that are a little bit undefined. But I mean, if he has the skill to do this, I'm sure in production he can do way more like interesting things, or like a more like production ready elements, right? But like the painterly like style, the painterly effect is just so good, right? So good. So that's our good friend. And we're going to be doing Ignacio, the singing frog. We're going to continue working on this cute character here. And today it's going to be a lot of refinement, right? Like we definitely need to work a little bit more on refining stuff. I really like where we are at the moment, but we can definitely push things up a little bit more. We definitely need to clean some elements. Some of the bells, like I definitely want to do it. Am I going to do Retopo? Yes, eventually. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it on stream though. I don't know if I'm gonna be doing it on stream because Retopo tends to be a little bit boring, I would say. A little bit boring to watch. I don't know. Like I love doing it in to work on, right? As part of the process, but to watch, I do feel like it can be a little bit boring. So yeah, let's get to it. Let's see. I want to make a baby monkey. That sounds like a cool one. Baby monkey. I don't think I've ever done one. So I want to adjust a couple of like proportions here on the toad. We do have the eyes painted in. Those are going to help us a little bit. There we go. So I'm not like I like the head, but I'm not like super convinced about it yet. I feel like some areas of the head are not where they're supposed to be. Like this front part right here, then we can push it a little bit higher up. Let's look for a frog reference. For a frog head, a reference. The thing is, there's so many different frogs. Some of them are a little bit more roundy, some of them are a little bit more flat. More like a toad, right? Kind of looks like a toad. So something like this, maybe? Will his mouth always be open? That's a great question. So with mouths, usually when we're doing characters, if the character is gonna talk or it's gonna be like, yeah, opening its mouth at one point, we do keep it open for a long time, or relatively open, because it's just a little bit easier to sculpt, it's a little bit easier to bake, it's a little bit easier to texture. And then when the animators, or the riggers rather, are going to prepare the character for rigging, that's when they close the mouth, right? Like, so when the animators receive the final rig, or not the final rig, but when they receive a rig, they are going to receive it with the mouth closed, and then they'll decide when to open the mouth. But sometimes it's a lot easier to work all of this with the mouth open and then close it afterwards. I feel like the upper lip is a little bit far forward. No, it's okay. It's some overlap stuff here that we need to fix. So this corner of the mouth, like, needs to go in a little bit more, and then this thing needs to sort of like blend down a little bit. I think that's gonna help. And now it's all about like secondary shapes. Like at this point, we're in a good position, and we can do secondary shapes. Here's a cool trick, guys. I mean, it's very simple, but it's cool. So if you take a look at this, guys, right here, V1, V2, V3, those are visibility options. So let's say I just want to work on like the head, the little beard, like just the head area of the character. If I go into V2, what I can do here is just turn on all of the elements that are part of the head right there. And now anytime I need to switch between them, I can just click V1 or V2, and this is a specific selection where I can just work on this particular element. So these are literally like visibility groups that we can do, and I believe you can have more of them. I'm not sure, but these visibility groups are very, very handy. That way we can like see all of this thing at the same time, and just get a nice result. Yeah, view layers. Vitari says, hi, first time in stream. I've been watching the YouTube channel for months now. There you go, man. Thank you, my friend. Thank you for being part of the stream as well. Welcome. Welcome to the stream. I'm gonna go for another reference image here. There we go. This is what I want. I got no idea how to make the baby monkey's head because it got fur and stuff. So you need to try and do the head without the fur. Like you need to sort of like ignore the fur for a while. And then the fur you can do with hair cards. You can do with actual hair like XGen or any of this like systems. You can do it with you can sculpt it as well. It really depends on what you're going to be like using it for. So look at this beautiful reference here. I'm going to be using this quite a bit. So when I really like focus on some of like the eyelids and stuff. So for instance, here you can see that the upper eyelid goes in. And we have enough resolution right now. Like, of course, we can work with a little bit more. Like, we can ask for a little bit more. But I feel like we're in a good spot here with resolution to really incorporate this amount of detail. One of the most important things about skin in general, and this applies here to the eyelids, it applies to I am gonna increase the resolution a bit. It applies to the eyelids, it applies to skin folds, to fat, to everything, is that skin doesn't just like stop, it also like blends and flows into each other. So we should be able to see that like complexity happening here. And this is an interesting technique that I like to share with my students. If you've seen any of the courses where we do characters, I use this quite a bit, and I call this the crisscross technique, right? So when you are doing any fold, like imagine we're doing that fold right there. If I just do a quick fold, yes, it's gonna look interesting, but it's also gonna look a little bit fake. So what you can do instead is do crisscross, 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 and by doing that, you're gonna get a little bit more of an organic look to the whole fold. Sometimes folds are definitely a little bit like smoother, but that crisscross technique that I like to use, it's a good way to add a little bit of extra texture to some elements. How do I transfer high poly details to a lower sculpt? You cannot do that, James. Remember that poly paint is dependent on the amount of like poly count that you have. So if you have more poly count, if you have more polygons, then you're gonna have more resolution on your poly paint. You can transfer that resolution. You can just like project all. So if you go here, to the side and you go to project, there is an option there. As you can see, color is turned on, so you will project the color. But if you don't have enough resolution on the lower subdivision level or on the low poly element, you're not going to be able to do it. What you can do though, is if you have a low poly and that low poly has UVs, you can transfer the poly paint information to the UVs. You're pretty much baking down the poly paint information into a texture map at that point. That is possible. But in order to do that, you're gonna need your low poly to have UVs. Otherwise, well, it doesn't work. Let's make the nostrils a little bit bigger. So as you can see, since we already have a good forms, or a good like primary form for the character, now we can actually go here and start working on this like secondary forms that I'm doing. That doesn't mean that we're not going to keep adjusting primary forms. If we see that there's certain areas or certain elements that need a little bit of adjustment, we're definitely going to do that. But it's thanks to the fact that we already constructed a nice high poly, or not high poly, a nice base approach for the forms of our character, that we're going to be able to do this. Now, this is the part where the artistic brain really kicks in, because as you can see here, we don't have a lot of information on the concept art. It's very painterly, very nice. So if we want to make this character, a little bit more hyper realistic, we need to look at what's going on the actual character. And for instance, I see that there's some like little bulges around the nose, so I'm gonna incorporate that. I do want to make the nose a little bit more interesting again, so I'm gonna push this a little bit like that. Right, that looks interesting. Intruder XC says, "Hi Ave, do you have any tips for me if my sculpts looks like clay and not clean? Like, where can I improve?" Yes. So Intruder, this is very common. It's a very common question. Whenever we're doing clay sculpts or any type of digital sculpt, it's very common for things to look a little bit messy, right? Like they are gonna look a little bit like I always say that like they look like chewing gum, or in Spanish we have this albóndigas, meatballs, right? So it just looks like a organic mass trying to like, I don't know, generate some form. You need to learn to control your forms, and we've talked about this before. You guys want me to show you an exercise? Here. This is one of the things about art, guys. I know you might have gotten this advice. I got it myself, where they say, oh, you don't really need to learn about traditional art, right? Like drawing, sculpting, painting, things like that. And the answer is yes, like that's true. Yeah, of course. Let me bring the music down a little bit, guys. Let's see. Is that better, Betsy? Let me know if that's better. So, one of the things that you learn if you're learning to draw is to work with like perspective, things like perspective, right? So they show you, oh, let's do a couple of cubes and let's point them in like a 1 point or 2 point perspective, and you learn how to do this, and then you learn how to shade and stuff like that. Well, there's an exercise that that you can do to learn about form a little bit better, and I don't remember the exact name. Like if you look for some visual communication, you're gonna be able to know a little bit more about that. But you need to draw just like a weird like organic shape like that. And then you're going to use section lines to generate some interesting forms, right? So for instance, I'm going to go in and out and in, and I'm going to go in and out and in, right? I'm going to go in right over there, and I'm going to create a section line right over here. So as you can see with this section lines that I'm like drawing on this thing, I'm pretty much describing an interesting like organic shape to this whole thing. And then if you use the example of a sphere and how we normally shade a sphere, right? Like with 1, 2s, and 3s, you're gonna realize, oh, well, if the light is hitting in this direction for this element, then that means that we're gonna have like a core shadow right on this area, right? This is looking similar to a sphere, so that means that I'm gonna have shadow on this area right here. Right, this is also looking like a sphere right there, like a cylinder. So I'm gonna have a little bit of shadow right here. I'm doing this very messily right now. Normally, I would take like 5 minutes to like properly shade this shape right here. But this is a good way to understand how form is moving. And once you understand that, right, like once you understand this flow and this curvatures that we have right here, and how from something that was very simple, we can create something that's a lot more complex, you transfer that into your sculpting, or you're like, okay, if I want to add a form right here, similar to what I have here on the side of the head, you can see that this bump is pushing up. So I want to add a bump right here, but I want to add it in such a way that it doesn't destroy my form. So I'm going to start adding a little bit more volume here. You can see that I like going in the same direction of the volume pretty much. And what I'm looking at is the shadow, right? The cleanliness of that form, how it blends and how it sort of like pushes. If I want to push this in, I'm pressing Alt right now, and I'm pushing this form in, only on this area. It's a lot of control. You definitely need to practice the control with your tablet or your pen display, and you need to make sure that you properly control how you're pushing the form either out or in this like 3D space. Once you have this, the next advice that I can give you, my friend, is use Stream Dynamic to clean this form. Because if you use a smooth, it just like destroys everything, right? Like it's not bad, but it just destroys everything. So I prefer to use Stream Dynamic very, very softly. And Stream Dynamic is a good way to sort of like sharpen those forms a little bit more. So I'm going to have the top plane right here. I'm going to have the side plane right here. And then I'm going to have the other plane going into the head right here. And the other plane going into the mouth right here. So as you can see now, that form reads very, very nicely, very intensely. Then, if you want to clean up a little bit of the brush work, you can definitely just go very, very softly with your smooth brush and just clean that stuff. It's about, again, it's form control. What you're looking for right there, it's something called form control. And if you do that, you are going to have your sculpture going to look a lot cleaner, okay? But it's understanding what shapes push forward, what shapes push like into the element, and how they sort of like merge together. Push the music in. Don't usually like this music because it has a lot of it has vocals in it and they can be a little bit distracting. I'm gonna lower that a little bit more, guys. There you go. How do you fix pixelated sculpts at the end? You need to have more resolution. Like there's no other way to do that. Vitaris says, Ave, do you know someone that have tutorials courses on how to texturize in Keyshot? I can found no. Keyshot has been like losing a lot of users, to be honest, in the past couple of years. It was big before because it had a nice sort of like a connection with Zbrush. So if you had Zbrush, you could use Keyshot pretty much automatically. There was a breach, right? But when Maxon bought Zbrush, they stopped that like collaboration. So now most people use Redshift for the texturing aspects. I've never used Keyshot, to be honest. Never got myself a license. Let's see. Hello, Twitch Queso. Do you have any exercise tips that can help learn controlling my tools in Zbrush? Yeah, of course. David just like linked that, the Zbrush for Character Artist course. That one's like, it's all about learning the tools inside of Zbrush. So I would definitely recommend that one as well. It's one of my best courses. Can you tell, sir, how to tweak surface normals for the characters where head and body are separated and have different textile density to make it look aligned and blended? Normally, what I do there, the one shoe, is if I need to merge them, I'll just merge them and work with a high poly count. Like, that's the best way you're going to get, like, a clean normal. You can, of course, try to blend them or clean them up inside of Photoshop, for instance. But it's a lot easier to just, like, combine them. Even if you need to have, like, a very dense, like, poly count, it's quite common to do that. Okay, so for instance here, I'm gonna show you another trick, guys. I wanna really create like a deep, nice, like flap on this area right here. So I'm gonna mask. Masking is very underrated. Masking is an awesome tool for a lot of different things. We can do polygroups, we can like sharpen things. It's just like such a powerful tool, and a lot of people don't really use them. So I'm gonna mask that lower eyelid. I'm gonna invert the mask, and then I'm gonna use again clay buildup or even like standard brush or whatever to just push this little volume here up. And that's going to give me a really, really sharp border. And it's a good way to have that volume control that we're talking about in a more sort of like traditional or easy way. So don't underestimate masking, because once we remove the mask, you're going to see we're going to have a very nice like strong line right there. And then if we want to use, for instance, something like Damien Standard to push that even a little bit more, that's fine. But the masking is going to give us a way more realistic result or approach. Hair. How to transfer UV from Maya to Zbrush? You just grab your low poly from Maya that has the UVs, and you bring it into Zbrush at the lowest subdivision level. Really not that complex. I'll soften that up a little bit. Go. Let's take a look at the concept as well. We always need to take a look at the concept, right? Because the concept is going to be one of the things that's going to give us the spirit of the character, right? For instance, here on the spirit, I can see that there's like a little bit of a wrinkle on this area. Kind of looks like the nasolabial fold right there. So I'm gonna incorporate it a little bit. Go to this thing right here. Remember that whenever you have a subtool and the subtool is a different subtool, it acts as a mask, and it allows you to go around the border more interestingly. NoPhoneX says, hello, I would like to hear your opinion about freelancing in general. It's great. I mean, that's what I do. That's my main, well, it's one of my main like sources of income, doing like freelance work. Freelance is really good. It does require you to be very consistent and very disciplined. So if you are someone who struggles with discipline, like you struggle to really have like a good management of your time and a good management of your deliveries, and you struggle to just like sit down and do the work, I do not recommend that you do freelance work, because you're gonna end up like messing up. But if you have a good like work ethic and you are good at like really focusing for long periods of time and just again like doing the work, freelancing is very rewarding, because you can adjust your times, you can negotiate with clients, right? But there's a secret about freelancing that not a lot of people like think about, and that's the fact that you need to offer something that no one else is offering, and that's the tough part, right? Like it's very difficult to break out as a freelancer when you're just starting. Like I've had people who just took some very basic tutorials online, right? Like some courses, and they're like, oh, now I'm ready to be a freelancer and I want to work for like the big companies. No, that's not how it works. By the way, freelancing doesn't really work with like extremely big companies. Most big companies, I'm talking about, again, like Blizzard, or I'm talking about like Activision or CD Projekt Red or whatever. Like they're gonna go either with an outsourced house. So it's a studio that has a lot of artists that are working as an outsourced like studio, and they're going to be sending the work there, or they're just going to do it in-house. It's not very common that they're going to be doing like freelancing stuff, because security-wise, that can also be a risk, right? So they're not going to risk hiring a bunch of freelancers and then one of them leaking important information. So there you go. At this point, I can for sure say Abe likes to sculpt faces, and your favorite word has to be nasolabial fold. Yeah, right? Yeah, the nasolabial fold, it's one of my favorite features on the face. It really works. For compositing, no, man. I'm not a compositor, so I'm not gonna be able to help you there. Like I don't know how, I don't know how I would approach a client to offer them my compositing services. But I'm going to give you a tip. I'm going to give you a very valuable recommendation here. And this is, of course, to everyone. One of the things that clients want, and this is why it's so important to always put yourself in the shoes of the client, right? Like they want a solution, like a sort of like a one-in-all solution. They want to contact someone and be sure that that person is going to help them with pretty much everything they need. So if you're a videographer and you can do a lot of stuff, for instance, you can go to the site and record the video, you can edit the video, and then you can do compositing work on the video. To them, that's super valuable, because instead of having to hire 3 different people, right, like 3 different artists, they can just hire you, and you're going to be doing everything. This, of course, means that you're going to be more like a generalist and less like a specialist, but it's something that, at least to me, has helped me quite a bit. So being able to contact the client and be like, hey, I can do you the models, I can do textures, I can do renders, I can even do like small animation if you're doing like product visualization or things like that. They like that. They like the fact, like, oh, awesome, I'm just going to hire Abe and he's going to be doing everything. That's great. Because that way they don't need to worry about having to coordinate a lot of the different people, right? Now, you can do that, and this is another one of those interesting tricks, my friend. You can do that. You can tell someone, hey, I will do everything. I will record, I will edit, I will do the compositing, I will do any like integration or whatever, and then you subcontract someone to help you. That's how you build a small team, right? Like that's how you build a small studio. So if you don't feel comfortable doing the recording, or you don't own the equipment, that's fine. You just hire someone else to help you, but now you're going to be responsible of that person. Of course, you charge that, or you sort of like transfer that cost to the client. You're like, oh, it's going to be this much because now I need to hire someone else. But you don't tell them that you're hiring someone else. You mentioned that you have a team, and you are responsible for your team, right? So that's how business works, because there's going to be a point where you're not going to be able to do everything. And at that point, well, you need to be very honest with yourself and just like ask for help. Get someone else on the team and hire them. It's tricky. It's a tricky situation being a freelancer, but again, as I mentioned, it's quite fun. There's some nice perks to it. One of the nice perks is that if you want to take a vacation, right, you can just be like, hey, I'm gonna go on vacation, and and that's it. Like, you don't need to ask for time off or anything. You just do it. But the downside is, if you don't have any work and you're like constantly looking for work, it can be some stressful months. So I usually compare freelancing to like a roller coaster. If you like roller coasters, like really high highs and really low lows, then you're gonna enjoy the excitement of being an entrepreneur and being a freelancer. But if you prefer some stability, if you just like to have a nice ride, right, where people are or where you're a little bit more safe and secure. And I say a little bit because, as you guys have seen in the past couple of months and years, there's been a lot of layoffs in the industry everywhere. So now even getting a salary job is not a guarantee that everything's going to be like perfectly fine. So, but that's the other option, right? Like that's the other options that we have. So you either work for someone or you work for yourself. Those are pretty much the only options that that you have in this world. And then you learn from him, and then you become better as well. Yeah, yes and no. Yes and no. Here's a very important thing that a lot of people. I actually suffered from this quite a bit in my early years as a freelancer. And I mean, I don't like calling myself like an entrepreneur because I don't own like multi-million companies or anything. But even owning a small business, I think, gives you the title. So the bigger the team, the bigger the project. So let's do a quick exercise, quick number exercise. If you're just an artist, just by yourself, you can probably get a project every month that's going to pay you, let's say, something like $5,000, right? Which is, it's a high number, of course. Like, I know might sound high, especially in some countries. Here in Mexico, that's like a lot of money. But in the US, I'm using the US as a point of reference, $5,000 per month. It's just, it's a comfortable number maybe, but it's not like extremely big, right? It's like $60K a year or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. So let's say you get a $5K a month, right? That's the kind of project that you're probably going to be able to get at that level. But if I call someone else and I'm like, hey, dude, I want to make a 2-man team. Like, we're going to start working on slightly bigger projects. That number, that 5K USD, can go not to double to 10K. It can actually go all the way to 15K, because with 2 people, now you're able to tackle slightly bigger projects. And if you go to 3 people, now you're talking about 25K. And you can see how that number starts modifying your income as well. If you're very fair and just and you divide everything equally between all of the members, then you're gonna go to like 7K each or like 10K each, right? But it is possible to tackle bigger and bigger projects, because there's a limit to how much you can accomplish as a single artist. You gotta be very careful about that. If you really want to grow, you do need to scale up a little bit. That does mean that you need to trust people. Some people are gonna betray you, and some people are gonna make a mess. I've had my fair share of experiences. Actually, you guys want me to show you? Let me see if I can do it. Because I recently found a project that was one of the big lessons for me. Let's see if I can get this out. The one second, and thing is Google, or sorry, when I decompressed all of these elements, it did a weird thing. Okay, let me try it. If this works. It's a long file. It's a big file. I don't know how many gigabytes of like frames this is. Hey, there you go. Thank you for the super chat there, Vegas. But I'm not sure what you say. Nico Prispomina Ibibor. I don't know what that means, my friend. I don't know what that means. If you can write that in English, I'll be super sure to what's the word? I'll be super sure to read this out loud. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna have to do this manually. Okay, it's gonna take a couple of minutes, guys, but let me see if I can show you this project, and I'll tell you a little bit of story about freelancing that happened with this project. This was back in 2018, so it's like 7 years ago. We almost got into legal issues with this one as well, so that's why I'm telling you that I learned a lot from this project, both good and bad things. What's up, guys? What's up? It was Polish. It somewhat resembles a beaver. A beaver? This is not a beaver, man. It's a frog. Cute little frog. We're still not done. We're not done. God, no. These are too many folders. Okay, so I'm just gonna take a couple of sequences here, or a couple of like frames. I'm not gonna be able to show you guys the whole video because it's gonna take forever, and it's really heavy. Like, for some reason I decided to render this at like 4K or something like that. It was a bad situation, but let me guide you through this process so that you can learn about like how to negotiate this kind of deals, and you don't make the same mistakes that I did back in the day. So this project was a project that I did. It was called Fantastic Animals. It was part of another, like a bigger project, and this project. There we go. You can see that right there. It's it was supposed to be it's kind of like a screensaver thing that they were gonna play at these big screens at some place. Not gonna give more information there. I don't wanna I mean, all of the bridges on this client were completely burned, but just a little bit of information there. So they were gonna display these things at some very big screens, and the idea was that between like announcements and ads and things like that, they were gonna be playing some interesting like shorts, right? And we were tasked with creating I believe this was like a 2-minute animation where we had this magical forest, and these creatures would appear, and they would what's the word? They would start like like just like going through there, like doing a little bit of animation and things like that. So for instance, here we have the rabbit. There's like a little rabbit right there. And they were the tricky part with this is they wanted the animals to be very magical. So we ended up deciding on this like a pattern, on this sort of like runic pattern across their bodies. They had this sort of like Fresnel effect as well, and there were a lot of particles like being projected from their bodies. It was a very challenging project because we were trying to do it with Unreal Engine. This was Unreal Engine 4 back then, so we didn't have access to Cascade. We were using Cascade, and now we have Niagara, right? Yeah, exactly. That was one of the actually like visual ideas. They wanted them to look like the Patronus from Harry Potter. They wanted them to look like the Moana, like animals in the sea, these magical creatures. The problem is that the budget that they had for this was really low. Back in the day, I thought it was like massive amounts of money, but later on I realized like, oh, they totally screwed us over because the budget that they dedicated to this was definitely very, very low. So we spent months, like probably like 3 months working on this. I had to assemble a full team for this project. There were 6 artists working on this, me and 5 of my friends. Some of them were doing animation, some of them were doing rigging, some of them were doing the particle stuff, some of them were doing the environment. Well, I was the one in charge of the environment and the light, pretty much. And yeah, this was the animation. Right now, again, it's not in order, but you can see some of the frames of this thing. So there was this like scene where the rabbit would get closer to the camera, and he would sort of like play around with the public and stuff. It was a cool project. I really enjoyed working on this one. It was very fun. But the mistake that we made, there were a couple of mistakes, and again, I wanna share this with you so that you guys don't make these mistakes later on. The first mistake that we made is that there was a chain of command that was not respected. What do I mean by this? So we had us, right? That's us as the studio. And then I got hired by a quote-unquote friend that was organizing the whole thing. He got hired by another one. So let's call this client A. And then client A got hired by the final client right here. So this final client reached out to client A, and client A said, yeah, I can make this. They needed 4 shorts, 4 different like animations in different styles and in different elements. Again, they were going to work as like screensavers. I really love what we did with the peacock right there. There were 4 teams that were going to be working on this thing, and this client contacted my friend, and my friend was the one that contacted 4 different studios, right? So each studio was going to be responding to this friend was going to be responding to this client, and then this client was going to be responding to the final client. This was the issue. Exactly. This was the first red flag. So the first red flag was the fact that there were too many people on the kitchen, right? Like there were a lot of like people. And the second red flag was that we would like deliver shots and we would deliver like different like works in progress to my friend, and he would approve them. He would be like, yeah, that's great. It works perfectly fine. But he would not show them to the next client or the next client. So we would just keep moving forward. Like I had a very specific written contract with him that said, hey, I'm going to finish all the modeling and all of the texture work. I'm going to show it to you, and you need to approve it, because otherwise I cannot move to rigging and animation. Because then if we make any changes on the models or on the texture, it's going to be a mess, right? And he was like, yeah, don't worry. I'll make sure to approve it. So we did that. He approved it. And then later on, they were like, oh, no, we actually don't like the textures. We don't like the models. We need to change this. It's like, dude, come on, man. I told you that there were, like, I told you I was going to send you this stuff so that we didn't have this, like, issue, right? Well, anyway, we managed, like, I was again, very young back then. And I was like, okay, I'll take the hit. I'll do it. I'll spend, like, endless nights just fixing stuff and making sure that we can deliver this thing. And we kept working. They were like, okay, yeah, we like it. Let's change this animations. And we just kept moving forward. Eventually, we finished the project and we got sort of like greenlit. They were like, yeah, awesome. This is great. By this point, they had paid 30% of the project. And my written sort of like agreement that I had with them was, when I finish and I deliver this, I am going to get the rest of the 70%, right, that we're owned. Keep in mind, here with us, again, I had 5 artists plus myself, and we were working on this thing, and I was paying them, right? Like, I was paying them as if they were, like, hired by the studio. I was paying them every month to work on this project. And there came a point where I was paying them from my money, from my personal money, because this 70% was not coming. And this was, like, September 2018, roughly. Yeah, it was, like, September 2018, and they were just telling me, give me a little bit more time, give me a couple more weeks. This guy's right here, right? This other studios haven't finished their stuff, and since they haven't finished their stuff, we cannot get the money from upstream, and we cannot pay you. And at that point, I was like, okay, fine. You know what? Thankfully, I'm in a good situation right now. I have some money saved, so I'm just gonna like pay all my artists. They got their money. Like we're even. I don't owe them anything, and I'm gonna be left with a deficit, right? Like there's gonna be some money that I'm owned, that I paid from my own pocket, and I'm gonna get the rest of the money eventually. Now here's the thing: I was gonna get married on May 2019, and I was expecting this money right here. Like I was expecting this to pay for some parts of my wedding, because you know weddings are a little bit expensive, you know, the honeymoon and all that stuff. It was not that much money. Like now I'm okay, and I'm in a good position. So it's like, okay, yeah, it was not like $1 million or anything. If I'm not mistaken, it was something like 3K USD. But it was a good amount of money, right? Like 3K USD, it's still like a good chunk of change. And I was going to be using that to pay for some stuff for my wedding. Well, the thing is, at roughly November of that year, I get a message from my friend. And he's like, this guy right here and this guy's right here, their work is not being approved. Like they are not liking their work. They don't like what they're doing. And final client is very angry because they don't like what's happening over on this side right here. And I was like, okay, I understand, and that sucks for those teams, but I finished my work. I'm done, right? And it became a story of you told me, he told me, you did this, you didn't do this, and people were just like pointing fingers. No one was resolving anything. It was a mess. Here's the thing, and here's where my blood really got to a boiling point, and I was like, oh, now it's personal, right? Like now I'm very, very sad. I later learned that final client had paid 70% to this guy right here, and this guy right here had paid 70% to this friend right here. So they had paid more than what they had paid me. And I don't know what they did with that money, right? But they did not pay me at that point. Unfortunately, to not make this story like super, super long, they never paid me. That's money that I lost forever. And I remember like contacting one of my friends who's a lawyer, and it's like, hey, dude, like this is what's happening here with this client. I have all of the information, and I have all of the messages and all of the emails. I got all of the final files. They never ended up using this one, but there was another part of the project that they did end up using. And I told them they're using this already, like they're making a profit out of this. What can we do? Like is there any legal recourse that we have? And he told me, did you sign an official contract? And I was like, no, it was a friend, and therefore we just like talked about it. So yes, we have some messages that that we like talked about, but no, as Canavidente is saying here, I did not sign a contract. Like that was mistake number one on my part, and I'm completely responsible for that. After that, I never do anything without doing a written agreement, right? And he told me, you know what? Like, unfortunately, the amount of money that you have right there, it's really small compared to like bigger projects out there. So just with attorney fees and all of the judges things and stuff like that, you're never gonna get it back. So he told me, take those 3K as a loss and consider those a payment that you made to learn a story, right? To learn about like how the world works. Never work for free. Never deliver the final files until you get paid. Never do it without a contract. Make sure that everything is written. So that's what I've been doing now. Like, make sure you have as much control of everything as you can. Yeah, it's one of those things that the only way to learn is through this like life lessons, right? But that would be my advice for you, my friends. Try this is another big one, and this is at least the one that I got the most, is like anytime I go into a project, I always tell my contact, are you the one in charge of the creative and artistic decisions? And if he says no, I tell them one of my like clauses on this like work agreement that we're gonna have is I need to talk directly to whoever is going to be the head of the creative decisions. Because if you approve me work and then that person says that they don't like the work, I'm gonna be doing double work and you're not gonna pay me for double work. So I wanna be completely in contact with the person that's gonna be approving the final work, so that if he approves my work, now I have the written agreement that the work has been completed successfully, and I'm not going to be doing double work. If you want me to change things later, I'm more than welcome to change things. Changes are very natural in our industry, but those changes should be rewarded, right? Like, you should be paying for those, and you should be completely sure that you want those changes. So yeah, that's you guys are angry now with me. Well, I was very angry. It took me a couple of years to really get over that, like to really get over that sort of like betrayal. But yeah, it was one of my canon events, as Harpyard is saying right here. So yeah, it's one of those things that you learn to deal with. That was one story. I'll tell you guys other stories later, but that was a big one for my growth as a business guy, right? Like trying to really be very clear about that kind of stuff. Oh no, that I haven't talked to that guy in years. And I think, at least in the final like phone interactions that we had, I could tell that he was feeling a little bit guilty, but not guilty enough to really make up for it. So, so yeah, I mean, I wish him well. I hope he learned as well from that situation, and he doesn't like screw anyone else ever again. But yeah, some people can really sleep nice at night knowing that that's the way they like to conduct business. Unfortunately, in business, I don't know what it is with money, but money changes people. It really does. It really like puts your character to the test and makes you do things that you wouldn't do otherwise. I told David this, and he's pretty sure he's here in the chat. And I told him, David, if at any point I start behaving like in a like obnoxious or bad way, you're gonna tell me, because I want this project to keep growing, and I know with growth there's gonna be like more interactions and more things, and I don't want to lose my essence. I don't want to lose my floor, right? Like, I want to be very, very aware of what I'm doing, and always fulfill my promises, and always be as honest and as disciplined as possible. And I think we've been able to do that. For instance, you can ask anyone here in the community. We've given away so many things, right? Courses, mentorships, games, tablets, prices, money prices. Like, I've never ever like failed anyone. If there's ever an issue, I always try to make up for it, and I always try to go above and beyond to help others. So it's one of those things. Like, I do consider my word to be really, really important. So yeah, it's important to always keep yourself in check. Like really, really keep yourself in check, so that you don't get lost in the world. Pretty much. How to export 3D model in GLB format with proper grouping collections in Blender. I'm not sure, my friend, but you know what you can do, Afhai Magar? copy, like just drag and copy that exact same question that you asked me there in the chat, and go to ChatGPT and tell ChatGPT, hey ChatGPT, I need to export a 3D model in GLB format with proper grouping collections in Blender. And believe me, you are gonna get the answer. I know we tend to shit on AI a lot, but this, like that kind of questions, that's exactly what AI is for. Like, it's gonna solve that question immediately for you. It's gonna give you a step-by-step on how to do it, and you're gonna learn. You're gonna learn. So yeah, ChatGPT doesn't know the answer. Give it more information. Give it more information. Explain. I'm in Zbrush, or I'm in Blender. I have these things right here. You can even, there's an instruction that you can give in prompts that says research online and find the answer for this, and it will try to look for forums and things like that. Sonny Lucy says, yeah, money is like a drug to some people. It ruins family. See, yeah, it's quite unfortunate. It's quite unfortunate. And one of the best advices I've been given is to always try to live beneath your means. So even if you start making more and more money, do not make the mistake of just like increasing your lifestyle, because if that money ever goes away, you're not going to be able to support that lifestyle, and it's going to be a very like tough reality check for you. Let's see. If everyone's like, hey, the world would be much better. No. I have my own set of flaws as well. Like, no one's perfect. But I do think that the world could use a little bit more empathy all around, to be honest. A little bit less greed as well. The worst part is when they stop responding to your message. Yeah, it's a combination of a lot of things. It's shame, it's guilt. There comes a point where you guys have probably heard about this situation. It's a psychological thing called confirmation bias. So there comes a point where you start making your own... no, it's not a confirmation bias. It's cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance. So it's this... Cognitive dissonance is this... like thought process that goes in your mind where you start justifying all of the things that you're doing, and you end up being like the hero of the story pretty much, and you don't realize, oh, actually I'm being very, very shitty here. Like, let me try to make this right. And you make this sort of like mental gym work, mental gymnastics. Well, you really truly believe that you're right, like you're completely right. Brother Scar, that's a good advice. Christian G says, hey, Abe, did you recommend more to buy brushes for sculpting or keep the default? Yeah, there are some brushes that are definitely worth it. I was really against like customizing or buying extra tools a couple years ago, and in the learning stages, I do recommend to try to keep working only with the basic stuff. But once you are in a position where you feel confident with what you're doing, then buying brushes is definitely going to up your game. So yeah, definitely recommend doing that. I want to do the belt again. That belt, remember, we had some like weird issues. So there we go. Yeah, had that belt right there. Let's do extract. 0 thickness, accept. Let me just make sure that... Oh, that's the problem. Okay, yeah, the problem is that we have thickness to this, apparently. There we go. So let's delete hidden. And now we're gonna see remesh. So geometry, see remesh and see remesh. We're gonna set half, see remesh again and again and again and again and again. There we go. That's a lot better. And then I'm gonna go to deformation, and we're gonna use a little bit of polish. A little bit of polish by features instead. This polish was getting a little bit too strong. And I'm just gonna use my move brush to make the border of the belt as straight and as clean as possible. This is one of the best advices I can give you when you're working inside of pretty much any software. Try to work with low amounts of poly counts first, and then once you're ready to push it up, then you push it up. Let's go to geometry again. Dynamic subdiv, dynamic. I'm going to add a little bit of thickness. That's great. Going to apply. And I'm going to smooth this a little bit so we get a little bit of a rounder corner. And I'm going to increase the resolution and dynamesh this whole thing. That's it. That's a nice leather belt. Now, this leather belt, as you can see, it's quite damaged. He's got a lot of like damage there on the belt. And we do want to generate or create eventually the... Really, let's do that. gonna go back to this original level right there. There we go. And I'm gonna go see. We can do this in the here inside of Zbrush, but as I've mentioned before, there's absolutely nothing wrong with going back into another software like Maya or Blender or whatever, and doing your stuff there if you feel more comfortable. Says, hey Abe, I've often hand-painted AOC on the eyeballs near the eyelids. It definitely looks better overall, but looks off in the eye most far to a corner. Is there a way around it? No, that's the disadvantage, right, of hand-painting that kind of stuff. That if the camera or the object moves, since that's baked in, it's gonna be there. I know some people can do like, or you can do some like interesting like shader techniques where it's only there if the eye is in a specific position, but really, it really changes. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go there. So I'm gonna make this into a normal belt. So you can see here that this belt has a belt buckle. I do think like mine is a little bit too thick. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna delete this edge loop right there. This edge loop right here. Now that feels a little bit too thin, but we can fix that a little bit later. Let's go to the front view, and the belt buckle, it's going to be right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete these faces. Go. And then this line right here, or this edge, I'm going to... It's really weird. See, this is interesting because this belt... Like, usually belts go around, and then you get the flap on this side, but this one's kind of going in the opposite direction. Maybe it's just very... I'm just going to do a normal belt. I'm just going to do a normal belt. So it seems like this character, is wearing the belt the other way. Right? Am I wrong there? Because normally the belt buckle is to the other side and the flap keeps going a little bit. This one seems to be inverted. I'm not sure if he inverted the character at the end or something. Well, I mean, if this is the way it's going to be, that's fine. So I'm just going to grab this guys right here. Control E. Going to push it up. And then Control E. I'm going to push it to this side right here. Right, like there. Then I'm going to add one line right there. Push it forward. Then another line right there. Another one right there. Push it forward a little bit. And push this forward a little bit. So as you can see, that's going to give us the belt going in. You can even push this one down a little bit and rotate it just to give it a little bit more, a little bit more life to the whole thing. Thank you, Lord Telom. See you on the next one, my friend. It is the other way. Yeah, normally it's the other way around, but this one is I don't know, it's like flipped or something. Yeah, it's a little bit weird. So what I'm expecting to see here is the belt buckle gonna be right around there. Yeah, and that's the part where artistic liberties come into play. Like you can like just decide what works best for the particular piece. In a studio environment, you always ask an art lead or the concept artist, if possible, is like, hey dude, what were you thinking over here? Like what's the idea, right? And they should be able to give you a little bit of a better understanding, right, of the whole thing. So this will be something like this. Why is this black right now? Because of the normals, as we know. Go mesh display and reverse. Yeah, so it's weird because usually the flap should go over this thing. We don't see this like curvature right there. So I'm gonna respect what I know about belts at this point. Go. Now what we can do, of course, is bevel this thing a little bit. That. Let's add a couple of lines here. The proper sort of like look right there. And then probably we're gonna bevel this edges as well. There we go. Nice. Now this one right here, we're of course going to extrude. Right. Like that. Guys, let's push them in a little bit more. Now I need to grab this faces right here. Press V again. Just push them out. Right, to really indicate this sort of like twist. Gonna add another edge loop here. Thicken up the leather right there a little bit. Go. Got a nice belt. And then finally we're gonna need the little thingy, the middle thing that actually goes through the object. Have this right here. Been working with the team recently and learned that the hard way. What? Always a bit tricky to turn it. Yeah. Why not bevel the corner? Yeah, we're gonna bevel the corner. Yeah, that's a fun thing about working on this live. Like, there's a lot of feedback, real-time feedback. You guys are my art directors today. You're gonna be saying, "Oh, this looks good. This doesn't look good." So the pressure's on. Yeah, so this right around there. And as I mentioned, like this thing should be going across this like thing. Normally the flap will go the other direction. Why it's a little bit of an interesting design choice right here. I'm not sure if there's other types of like belts. I don't know. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced that this is gonna work, to be honest. Because normally this thing right here would be going in the other direction. Let's see. What would be your dream project to work on? Oh, that's a great question. See, back in the day, I would have said the World of Warcraft cinematic team, right? Like be part of that and be doing like characters or creatures or something there. But nowadays, if I could get a chance to work at like in a hand painted game, like League of Legends or like a Dota or something like that, that would be pretty cool. Like I've been enjoying hand painted stuff quite a bit this past couple of years, so that would be pretty fun to work on. Let's go there. Okay. So now here, I'm not gonna bevel this. I'm going to add some support edges. I want the belt to be a little bit rounder there. Same for this thing right here. Yeah. Blur Studio was always one of my picks as a cinematic studio as well. Yeah, so I don't like what's going on here. This looks very weird. I mean, it kind of makes sense though. I guess it makes sense. It just doesn't match the concept. That's what's like freaking me out. The fact that this thing doesn't match the concept the way I would like to. But this is how a belt would work though. Especially if they're pushing it this way. Normally this flap right here would be going in this direction. And you would see the little thing right there. That's what's like freaking me out. What should we do, guys? Do we keep the flap like this? Or do we move the flap to this side like a normal belt? Is it easy to transition from Zbrush Maya to Blender? Yeah, kind of. Abe, if we have perfect AAA level character in our portfolio, what's next step? Can we start applying for jobs? Yeah, you can start applying for jobs. Ideally, you want to have a couple more, right? Like just one character might not cut it, unfortunately. But if it's really, really, really freaking good, and we've had some of those in the... oh my god, did Maya just crashed after we finished the freaking belt? Wow. Now that's interesting. Let's see if we can recover a file. Damn. Haven't had one of those in a while. No, they did hand paint a lot of stuff, Duman. For Arcane, they did hand paint a lot of stuff. There's some making of videos, and they do everything pretty much by hand. Second. Oh man, Maya and its things, right? Yeah. Maybe it's a sign there. Maya had some doubts about that, yeah. Tutorials for realism. There's some really good ones in the what's the word? There's some really good ones at the Nomo workshop. Hossein Diva, you probably have heard his name. He's like one of the masters at realism. Yeah, the belt is done. The belt is dead, so we're gonna do it here inside of Zbrush. Breaking Maya, man. Okay, so let's try doing C-Modeler now. And I go polygroup. Let's polygroup that, polygroup that. Let's delete hidden. There we go. Then break symmetry. Going to delete the mesh. Go. I'm gonna go all the way down here to visibility and say double. Display property, sorry, double. There we go. Maybe just make it a little bit thicker. And then I'm gonna go. I'm actually gonna. No, I don't want to delete that border though. Extrude move. Mesh border. Edge loop. There we go. I'm gonna follow my, what's the word? I'm gonna follow my instinct. I'm just gonna continue this to the other side instead of the other one. This makes more sense, and our belt buckle is gonna make more sense as well. Go. Let's insert an edge loop here. Go. And we still add a little bit of, you know, a little bit of like movement there. Oh yeah. I've heard about Pablo. We've actually been. We talked a little bit last year. He's a great artist too. Let's go geometry, series measure, and we're going to go dynamic subdiv, dynamic. There we go. Gonna add thickness to this. Not too much thickness though. Here's where we can definitely see the frog and see how much thickness we actually need. I think that's about right. Yeah, that seems about right. I'm just gonna change the offset here so that it's more towards the outside of the character. We see a little bit more of the belt. But now that belt looks too thin, right? Compared to what we have right there. So I'm not gonna give smooth groups right there. And I'm gonna go probably Q mesh. Go Q mesh, polygroup all. Oh, wait, of course I need to apply this. There we go. We're gonna just like Q mesh this up. So we get a little bit more thickness of the. There we go. That looks good. I like that. Now I do want to sharpen a little bit of this before we subdivide. So I'm gonna add a couple of support edges. We're gonna dynamesh everything anyway. I just want to have a bit of a sharper look there at the end of the belt. There. One that you can also do. Some people like doing, what's the word? Some people like doing this thing called. Oh man. Oh, I forgot. I'm blanking out. Crease by polygroups. That's another another good option. Actually, I don't think I'm gonna need to do this. Hector, hey man, thanks for the super chat. Says, hello, I have doubts about UVs. I've watched your tutorials on March 3D tutorials. Oh, and on March 3D tutorials. Okay. I was like, I don't have anything on March 3D tutorials, but no, that's another guy. He adds noticeable seams to reduce distortion, but you hide them. I'm curious about the different methods. I would need to see specific things about what you mean by that. Like, I'm not exactly sure, like the UV process, but I can show you in just a second some of the things that I like consider when doing my UV seams. Okay, so give me just 1 second, and actually let's. I'll show you my UV process and how I hide them. I have an RTX 4090 and it doesn't struggle with anything, but you need a ton of cooling. Yeah, 4090, 5090s, they're like beasts. They're really, really powerful. Here. So let me grab one of my characters. I'm gonna grab one of my complex characters so that you can really see all of the cuts that we normally, or that I normally do, and how I organize them. As with everything in 3D, my friend, it really depends on your approach. Like, some people might have a slightly different approach than you do. So you guys remember this character right here, right? Let's go use flatlining. There we go. So if we take a look at her UVs, for instance, on the body, right? As you can see, the body is almost watertight. She's got like the traditional like animation loops that we need on the legs, the arms, the hands, everywhere. She's not watertight because she's missing half of her head, of course, but everything is supposed to be right there. And if we go to the UVs, and if we take a look at the UV seams, you're gonna see that, for instance, I have one seam here underneath her neck. I have one seam here on the back of her head. Seams here on the back of her torso. Right, so that most of her torso is as clean as possible. I have some seams here on the inside of the arms. On the hands, I always do the seams around the fingers, right, on the middle of the fingers and around them. On the pants, right, like the Superman cut, pretty much right there. On the inside of the legs, right, on the ankles, like those are the seam lines for her on the body. On other elements, for instance, the mask right here, you can see that what I try to do is I try to make the seams go in the borders, right? So for instance, most of the seams on this mask are in the back borders of the element, because this is pretty much like a cube, right? Like, we have front side of the cube, side of the cube, and then back of the cube. So I'm going through all of these lines here on the back side of the mask so that I can cleanly divide it. And as you can see, we get this very nice distortion here. Very important, guys. This is a UV trick that I share quite a bit. When you have an element that's very square-like or cube-like, you do want to cut the corners right here, because otherwise you get a lot of distortion here on the corners. Okay, but yeah, it's I'm not sure if you have a specific area on the body, my friend, or on the character that you are curious about. He uses the UV distortion model lodges, white, red, and blue colors. He also clearly puts he clearly puts seams also in the middle of the model to avoid the distortion. Oh, no, I would never do that. I'm not sure why he's doing it. I would never put like lines down the middle. You can hide them if you're using, okay, this is the distinction, right? If you're using a Udemy workflow where you're gonna have tons and tons and tons of UV space, then yes, normally you're gonna have like a bunch of different cuts everywhere, and you're gonna have very little distortion, and you're gonna have a lot of like textile resolution to paint everything. But for game characters, most of the time we don't have that like access to those like elements, so it's not as easy. For instance, here someone's asking about the hair. Like, there is gonna be distortion on the hair. Like, we are gonna have some distortion. So what I did here is I cut all of the inside of the hair, like that, like big map right there, and then all of the outside, and on all of the little spikes that the hair has to change the silhouette, I cut them as if they were cylinders. So if you take a look at the UVs here on the hair, you're gonna see that that yes, we do have a little bit of distortion. So maybe what you're referring is this thing right here. But look at that, like, there's barely any distortion. Yes, we have a couple of like red points here and there, but I would say there's barely any distortion. Let me show you the full character. So select objects with material. There we go. So if you take a look at the UVs and my distortion amount, I got almost no distortion, right? Almost no distortion. Like, there's a little bit of distortion here, a little bit of distortion on the nose, but look at this. Like, pretty much it's pure white everywhere, right? Pure white. There's another software. I haven't really done any videos about it. Let me see if I can open it real quick. 1 second, guys. And this one's gonna give us a little bit more of a cleaner look about the distortion. 1 second. There we go. So this guy, this software, my friends, called Rhizome UV, and it's a specific software just for UVs. You don't need this. I'm not saying it's not a good software. It's a really freaking good software. But if you're just starting, don't feel pressure in getting more software. So a very common mistake that people do is they want to get every single software and buy every single license or subscribe to every single thing. You don't need to do that. You only need to do that when you really need it, okay? So here. So there you go. So as you can see here, we get these colors, right? And it's a little bit more obvious where we have the big distortion. So you can see it here on the lower section of the screen. You're gonna have this bar. As long as you're from neutral, and I would say to like 0.6 both ways, right? Like 40% distortion, you're gonna be fine. Like for instance, the breasts right here are definitely getting a little bit of distortion. The neck is getting a little bit of distortion. The nose is getting a little bit of distortion, but it's nothing. It's nothing. Once you get from, let's say, 0.5 and lower, that's when you need to worry a little bit about like the distortion of your element, because as you can see here with the textures, like you really don't see like any errors, like paint and everything. Things are working perfectly fine with the character. So you don't need you don't need to make sure that everything is like perfectly like balanced. Yes, if I went, for instance, here to the chest and I made or added another cut right across the breast area, that would make distortion less intense because it would have more room to sort of like spread out. But the problem is, and this is something that I'm not sure if Mars covers on his videos, but one of the problems is every single extra UV cut that you add to your element will give you a performance hit on the what's the word, on the render and on the engines and everywhere. So you don't need to or one of the best things in terms of performance is to have the least amount of cuts, and of course hide those cuts in the most like obvious way. For instance, again here on the lower side of the character as you can. Those are like the rule of thumbs in terms of UVs. Bro, should we flip B in Zbrush to bring that mesh in Maya in order to prevent normal map issue? No, you need to flip the texture. If you're doing any sort of texturing work inside of Zbrush and you export that texture, you do need to flip the B, but not the model. Not the model. Yeah, every cut is what's the word? Every cut will matter in terms of performance. Otherwise, if you didn't care about cuts, the best like approach that you can do is just grab this whole thing right here, just go UV and do like an automatic mapping, right? So if you do that, of course, this is now going to be completely broken. But thanks to the automatic mapping, you're going to have like something that we do like a Control L. Let's see if we can do it. Now I couldn't do it. Or here, you want to see something even more fun? Like if we go to Zbrush and we go to like a very basic UV map like this one. I'm going to clone it. There is a Zbrush option here to generate the UV. Because right now if we go to UVs, you're going to see that we don't have any UV map. So I'm going to create this, and I'm going to use this called UV tile. I'm going to click on that right there. And look at this. If I morph the UV, right? So what it did is it pretty much split every face. There's another one. This one, packed UV tiles. There you go. So if I morph the UV, like this right here represents one of the best possible ways we could do the UVs for this belt. Because it's using pretty much all of the space in our 1-to-1 UV space. It's respecting the proportions of every single face. Every single face has its own element. But look at the amount of cuts that we have, right? Like, it's ridiculous. The amount of cuts that we have for this build it's absolutely ridiculous. You're going to have the best textile density with this one, but it's going to be like an absolute mess to texture. Yes, we could use things like triplanar mapping and other things to try to hide all of the seams, but every single cut that you have right here on the UV will have an impact on the performance. So this is not an optimal way to do UVs. This is not a way to to work with your assets, okay? So every project, of course, is a little bit different. Hey, can you use Rhizome UV while doing UV for the frog you're making right now? Yeah, we can do that eventually. Like the frog's not ready for UV. We would need to first go through the retopology stage, but yeah, we can definitely do that. Okay, so let's go up here in subdivision levels, and now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna start go small brush, I'm just gonna start softening the first like layer right there, because I don't want to have that like sharp sharp edge on the center of the belt. And we're gonna give this belt a little bit more life in just a second. There we go. Hi Ave, do you do retopology by hand or with the help of some tool? I do it by hand most of the time, but there are some like elements. For instance, this belt, right? Like if I were to go into Dynamesh and do this belt, I would probably do it with some tool like C-Remesher, because it's relatively simple. But for my characters, I normally do it by hand. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna start adding a little bit of that break effect that we have right here, like that damage, right? And we always need to ask ourselves, where is the most obvious place for this damage to be? That's what we need to try to do. Hello, Oleg. How are you? I'm going to use clay buildup. You guys know I love this brush. I'm just going to start using this to give me a little bit of damage here. I think we can give this another subdivision level. We're fine. Brain Dynamic is another great brush to add this sort of like detail. There we go. And in terms of details, we always need to, again, think about the cupcake principle that we talked last time, right? Our 1s, our 2s, and our 3s. Like, which was going to be the main damage? Where are we going to have smaller damage? And where are we going to have, like, bigger damage? Technically, we could do this in texturing as well. But someone said that it would be cool if we 3D print this frog. So, since we are going to be 3D printing this frog eventually, we do want to have a lot of the detail here on the sculpt. Oh, I think I saw the Stitch project. Yeah, I think I saw it, my friend. Sorry about the repost, but how often do companies offer artists the option to live abroad? Like, for example, getting hired by a Dutch company. It's getting more and more common, because it's a little bit cheaper for companies, right, to hire someone, and you don't need to pay for the office space or anything, and you're working remotely all the time. Now with tools, right, like with Zoom and Teams and Slack and all of those things, communication can be kept a lot better. Like one of my friends, he's working here nationally for a national company, and he's working from a home office option. So it is possible. It is possible. Is it much faster to do those little details on Sculpt versus Textures Paint? I was under the assumption that it's easier to do in Sculpt. It's pretty much the same thing, to be honest. Like, I don't see too much of a difference. Thanks for the follow, Gamsi, and also Samat and Vayan. I think I missed you guys. Thank you for the follow, my friends. Yeah, let's save. Thank you, Mango. Save Ignacio here. Zbrush is quite stable. Like, it does crash with some tools, but in my experience, Zbrush is one of the stable softwares, to be honest. Blender is also quite stable. Let's see. Are you using a display tablet or non-display with sculpting? This is a display tablet. I'm using the Canvas Pro 19. It's a 4K display tablet. Really good. I have the review on the channel if you want to check it out. Huyon sent it to me for August. They didn't specify that it was for my birthday, but I'm counting it as if it was for my birthday. so yeah. Yeah, it's a good one. I like it. There's been some critique. Some people say that the customer service is not as great. I haven't had any issues. I've been using Huyon for the past like 6 years now. The first Huyon tablet that I got was a Canvas 16. And it was really good. Canvas 16. And then I had the Canvas 13, and then the Canvas 22, and then another Canvas 16, and now this one. So I've tried 5 different Canvas tablets or Huyon tablets and haven't had any issues. Sometimes there is some issues with the drivers. That's the only thing that I've experienced. But they're like quite fast enough to solve them. Like we had it last stream, right? I think on Sunday last time, where the like brushes were not working. So you have never? No, I don't, dude. Mango, come on, man. Of course, I have used like non-display tablets. Let me see. So the first ever tablet that I had was one called the Wacom Bamboo. It was like in 2011. This one right here. There you go. So my first tablet was one like this. That was literally my first tablet. My Bamboo tablet. Nowadays, they're super expensive because they're discontinued. 3,000 pesos. That's like insane. When I got it, it was like $60 or something like that. That was my first tablet. And then when I had my studio, my physical studio, and we had computers and everything, I got I got this as well. It was, I think it was this. I got like 10 of this, and I had them lying around. I sold them later. But this was my second tablet. And then when I went to Noman, to school, I used the Intuos Pro. It was this one right here. I recently threw it out, unfortunately, because it was just like too old and I was not using it anymore. It was like all damaged. It was very sad to throw it, but I tend to accumulate a lot of stuff, and I was like, no, I need to I need to do some cleanup. So this was my tablet for a long time. I had this like for 7 years, like one of the best tablets I've ever had. But it was not a pen display, right? It was just a tablet. After this one, that's when I made my upgrade and I got my first like pen display, which was the Huion 16. Yeah. Wacom is really good. It's one of the top brands as well. If you want to sponsor us, Wacom, and you want me to do a review on one of the tablets, feel free to reach out. I'll be more than happy to check some of your newer tablets, because I haven't used Wacom in a long time. Oh yeah, the Canvas 16 Gen 3, really good. That one, Alexi, that's the one I have with my laptop. So as I've mentioned before, this is my studio. This is where I do my professional work, right? But sometimes I need to like work on something else or just like check me emails and stuff like that. So I have my laptop and in a smaller studio back home, a couple of rooms away, near my house, and there I use the Canvas 16 Gen 3. Degok says, I'm new to the 3D industry and have some basic experience with Substance Painter. I'm looking to expand my skill in asset modeling and character creation. What are the best softwares to learn? Basic with Substance. I mean, if you're going to, if you want to go professional, right, then Zbrush, of course, it's the best option to learn. But if you want to keep this as a hobby for now and just like keep learning a little bit more about like the general 3D stuff, Blender is amazing. Degox. So you might want to try the Blender course. We have the Axe course that I did a couple of years ago. That one will teach you a lot about the basic stuff. So it should give you a good good information. Now let's look for some more reference. Because I think medieval leather belts, I'm not sure if they had like a border at the top or not. No, they were pretty much just the leather. I mean, I know that's like a cosplay stuff, but yeah, as you can see, they had no trims, no nothing. Like some of them might, but I don't know. Like for this frog, I don't really see any border. Seems like a very sort of like a basic leather belt. So now what we need to do is the belt buckle. So let's do the belt buckle. Is ZBrush necessary for hard surface modeling? Yes and no. Yes and no. We do have some belt buckles here. Let me see if I have... Yeah, there we go. So there are some belt buckles like this one right here. Not bad. We could use that one. Samat says, hi, can someone help me out? How can I use Dynameshine ZBrush for clots? I use CMask to extract the surface, but if I use it, it fills all the gaps. You need to add thickness to it, Samat. So here, let me show you. So let's imagine this is like our body or whatever, and as you mentioned, you use your mask to extract an area, right? So if I mask this area, imagine this is like a draping cloth or whatever, and I extract. subtool and extract. There we go. So if I do this, as you can see, this thing is going to have thickness by default with the extract option. If you don't have thickness, if you have something like this where it's completely thin, yeah, you cannot use Dynamesh, because when you Dynamesh, as you mentioned, you're going to fill in the hole. So what you need to do is you need to give this thickness. There's a couple of ways to do that, but the easiest way is probably going to be going to geometry, turning on dynamic subdiv, removing the subdiv, a smooth subdiv, and increasing the thickness here. As you can see, now we get thickness. If you don't want the thickness to push up, you can just move the offset all the way down. It's going to push it in. You hit apply, and now you Dynamesh. Later on, when you export or when you bake or whatever, you can just export this element right here and just keep sculpting. But that way, you're going to have like this back part of the cloth so that you can sculpt things a little bit nicer. Okay. Hope that helps. Now, I know we don't have any borders, but I am going to add a little bit of like surface detail to this leather belt. Otherwise, I feel like it looks a little bit too ugly. Just like a little bit of bands here and there. What if instead of a belt buckle, you make it a cool padlock? That could work. I was doing retopo some rocks. In Maya Quadro, it took so long to retopo, and Bex had some issues as well. Santnable, check my latest video. Check the 3 last videos that I uploaded. I was doing a ruined archway. And I show another technique that you can use for rocks, which is using decimation instead of like manual retopology. It will give you tighter bakes. It will give you a very optimized amount of triangles. And since they're just rocks, like topology flow doesn't matter as much. Yes, the UV cuts, as we just mentioned, are not going to be as efficient, and the models are going to look a little bit weird. But that's what they do for photogrammetry. So check the videos on the channel, because I explained that process like pretty much step by step, and it should help with that project. I've been using the whole process I learned in the Axe course for my characters, and it's great. Thank you, Water Guru. Yeah, that's the basic process for pretty much any asset in the game pipeline. Low poly, high poly, high poly, low poly, UVs, bakes, and then texture. That's the process. Like that's my everyday process when I'm working on this kind of stuff. Do that every single day. Nowadays, I've been incorporating a little bit of photogrammetry, a little bit of what's the word? Like traditional poly modeling, right? So it's a little bit of everything. I enjoyed the texturing process of that course a lot. Yeah, it's a fun one. We do use Substance though. I remember getting a very angry message and a 1-star review by a user on one of the sites. It's like, oh, this is bullshit. They never mentioned that you're going to be using a paid program like Substance Painter. I thought we were going to be doing everything in Blender. And the funny thing is, both on that description on the course and on the intro video, I mentioned we are going to be using Substance Painter. We're going to be using mostly Blender, but we will be using Substance Painter because we do need to do the textures. Seems like reading attention has been going lower and lower in this past generations, unfortunately. What instance instead of a... Oh, the padlock. Oh, there you go, it's enabled. Sorry, I missed your earlier message. You did use or you did saw the videos. But yeah, you can apply those methods to your project, man. And remember, guys, in 3D, it doesn't really matter how you get to the end result, as long as the end result works and you're not affecting anyone else. That's gonna be that's the goal that we have. How many times do I say super important in a day? More than I would like to think. It's one of those things that I do as a teacher, where I need to keep your guys' attention. So you need to exaggerate certain things. You need to like say certain things multiple times. Don't think that I enjoy it, man. It's not funny to repeat yourself a lot of times, but it's super important for you guys to really get the main concepts. I read once that for you to really remember something, or for you to really like assimilate something, you need to hear it at least like 7 times. Imagine that. And in different occasions, right? Like 7 times on different occasions. Push this out. And I think we're going to have to do the belt buckle a little bit more manually. You know what? Let's do it a little bit more interestingly here inside of Zbrush. So we're gonna use some Zbrush techniques now. I'm gonna go with a cube right here. Gonna make this a little bit thinner, like that. And then the belt buckle, as you can see, has like a curvature to it, right? So I'm guessing on this part right here, it's quite straight. On this part right here, it's more like a curve. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use my knife curve. It's a polymesh 3D. Let's dynamesh this thing. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna like capture the curvature that I want, like right around there. Go. That looks good. And then I'm gonna change my mirror and weld. Instead of being X, it's gonna be Y. That we get the same sort of like result on the lower section right there. And then I'm gonna use. Have you guys used the? This is a very cool tool, the bevel flat or bevel arc. I'm gonna use the bevel arc. The way this works is you go to a surface, you draw this thing, and then you push back, and that's gonna be your bevel right there. It doesn't work as well on the on what's the word, on curved surfaces, but you can try it. An interesting bevel right there. Now, since this is a like a medieval belt, I don't care too much that the bevel's not perfect, but this is gonna help me with my trim dynamic. Just get like a nice curvature here around the belt. That's the bevel arc brush. Very cool. Again, it works a lot better with like straight areas like this one. So if I wanna, I don't know, like even this bevel flat, right? So I just draw this and then boom, perfect bevel all the way across, right? So it's a cool bevel. Again, I'm gonna do a mirror and weld, have the same thing on both sides, and just clean this up a little bit more. You guys never seen that brush before? I use it quite a bit for hard surface stuff. Go. I don't use it as a lot, but when I use it, it does come in handy. That's a cool brush. Now I'm just gonna use my move brush here to give this a little bit more curvature here. Just clean it up a little bit. Go. Just clean this bevel there. Kind of like this look of like hammered metal, right? Looks interesting. And now we need to do the inside of that thing. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to duplicate this thing, push it forward, make it a little bit smaller, then make it very, very thick. Can someone guess what I'm about to do with this one? Very obvious, I would say, but always fun to guess. So I'm going to have it right there. That's right. We're going to use live Booleans. Gonna remove that from there. And now, since this is live Boolean, I can like calculate how I want this to be. That's right, Boolean time. Something like that. Maybe a little bit less on the. Yeah, that seems about right. Now we're just gonna say Boolean, make Boolean mesh. Cool guy right here. Dynamesh real quick, just to. Let's increase the resolution. Keep polish on. Dynamesh. Now here, I do want to bevel this corners a little bit. So. We're going to go to the mid section, to the midline, right around there. And then we could just do mirror and weld. Again, on the y-axis. Very. Can we make this using Simulr? Yeah, you can do that as well. Again, I want to have this sort of like sculpted look to it. So I'm doing it a little bit more manually. But if you want to have like a super precise, super clean, like belt buckle, yes, Simulr would be the way to go. Go. Now let's just add a little like pin right there. So I'm gonna append a cube. Smaller. There. Go. This thing is usually embedded on this like lower portion. Well, it's not embedded. It's actually has like a hinge or something. There's a little bit of curvature to it, like that. Let's Dynamesh. Let's bevel this corners a little bit. Again, since the bell was looking a little bit sort of like old and dirty, I want to sort of like keep the same thing over here with this ones. This one we don't even need to see. Go. Keep in mind, we're also going to be seeing this like really, really far away. Like right now, we're like hyper focused on this thing because it's really close to us. But in reality, it's going to be a lot farther away. Now, I am going to use my move brush here with move infinite depth to give this thing a little bit more curvature here. And then I'm going to go to this one right here. And I'm going to use bend arc to also bend it a little bit. There we go. I'm going to give it a little bit of a bend. Just a tad bit. Not too much. And just so that it's not like super perfect, right? On this one, of course, we need to... I'm going to turn on symmetry. And you might wonder, well, we have symmetry, but it's not on the angle, right? Remember, we can always go transform and change symmetry to Y symmetry. So every object can have its own symmetry. You can carve a little bit of a dimple here where that thing is going to be sort of like falling, right? Or touching. Transpose Master is my biggest fear in Zbrush. Can't use it properly. Nah, it's fun. It's fun. It does take a little bit of time and practice to, of course, like get the hang of it, but fun. Yeah, the cones are a little bit weird. I agree. There we go. I'm not sure what I want to do with this one. I'm gonna push this. Again, it's probably going to be hidden, but just in case we see a little bit of that, it's going to be there. Now here, I'm just going to merge them. So I'm just going to say merge visible. There we go. So now we have both of them in the same one. Now we go back to our character. And we append that little belt buckle right there. Get really small. Forward. There. Rotate it a little bit. There. Yeah, that seems about right. Small little detail, but it really helps. Of course, we need to go to the belt here. Hey, Maddie Johnson, what's up, my friend? Welcome. Add the little dimple there. Probably gonna add one more dimple here. Expect to see here. And another one right there. Right? That's our belt right there for our character. Not bad, right? Not freaking bad, I would say. Now the belt has a couple of other things. So there's like the horn that's there, and that horn is being held by this like metal bit. It's gonna be roughly on this area. So let's add it. I'm gonna append another cube. Move it into position. Rotate it with its proper angle. Give it the right thickness. As you can see, this is a little bit longer. It's actually two of them, or it looks like it's two of them. I have this one right here. There we go. I'm good. Thank you for asking. How are you? I'm good. Good, my friend. I'm a little bit hungry. A little bit hungry. I didn't have lunch today. Or breakfast. Probably gonna be myself a sandwich after we're done with the stream. Yeah, something like that. Let's Dynamesh, of course. Higher resolution. And let's add a little bit of like metal edgeware. Right? That, yes, the piece looks like it's metal, but not super new metal. That. There we go. For what things do you use Maya? For a lot of things, man. Sometimes if I need to do a small element, I'll do it inside of Maya. That thing right there, I usually refer to that as complexity out of simplicity, which is when you can use a simple piece like this little metal bit to add complexity to something that's relatively simple, like this belt. Okay. So eventually we're going to have a couple of chains going from there. And the horn for the character. After the stream, you deserve a good meal. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Then why don't you eat something? Your work's really very appreciated. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I cannot eat right now because we're in a stream. Let's do the boots. I want to do this like funny little boots that the character has. So I think my legs can definitely be a little bit more stylized. I think they're a little bit chubby. Gonna stylize them a little bit more. I think we can make them a little bit longer as well. So we're gonna go here. A little bit longer. That should make the character look a little bit more froggy. Frogs have these very long legs. And now for the boots, ideally, since they're like slightly different materials, we do want to separate them. So I'm just going to use my select lasso here. Hide them all. And just say split hidden. This one's with Dynamesh. And we push the legs in. Have a little bit of there. Here. There we go. I'm carving asada. Hopefully this we can all make some. There you go. Start adding a little bit of the flaps here that we expect to see from the leather boots. Leather is very angular. Like it gets some like really strong wrinkles. What I'm trying to do here. Kepkas, what's up, my friend? All good. Just having fun here. Sculpting some leather boots for a frog that likes to sing. Frog's name is Ignacio. Oh. Isolate them. Focus on them a little bit better. How's it going, Abe? Did you enjoy your birthday celebrations? Yeah, it was fun. It's a fun weekend. We're still missing the carne asada stream, so we'll have that soon. So, and again, as I was mentioning, silhouette is going to be very important here. I'm just going to use my move brush to really push the silhouette of these boots out. Really generate something that looks interesting. Those are kind of stuff that we could do in Marvel's Designer as well. Should we? I'm not sure if we should. Go. The wrinkles are going to be here on the front. Would usually beds. I'll keep you in the background some modeling as well, but could use some background boys. There you go, my friend. Yeah, that's fine. I'll be here making you company. These guys tend to end like in a pointy bit. Probably towards the toe. Does marbles work for stylized stuff? It can give you a good block-in. Like, it could potentially give you an interesting blocking. But no, more often than not, if it's very stylized, I try to keep it inside of Zbrush. I would expect the boots to have a seam line here down the middle. And usually there's that seam line there on the middle, and there's a seam line either on the back of the foot or on the side. In this case, I'm going to do it on the back. Right here. Like the basic construction of this. Kind of look like slippers, right? Kind of like slippers. But that seam line is important because I can use that seam line as a point. Start getting some of my wrinkles. Mark Anthony says, what is your process when you finish the high and low poly model? Do you merge all the objects? It depends. It depends on what you're gonna do. But yeah, usually, for instance, for rigging, you're gonna be merging some of the elements. We actually covered that on the Undead Captain course. We merge some of the body elements, and then and we skin them right together. But some of the props and other things we don't. We keep those separate. And it really depends on the character and what you're going to be doing with it. But yeah, like usually for like sculpting, baking, texturing, I like to keep things separate. And then at the end, when I'm ready to rig the character and get ready for animation, I'll decide what things make the most sense to be like pretty much together, part of the same element, and which things make sense to keep a separate element. Natural seams, good for UVs as well. Yeah, that's right. That is right, Saint Navel. Abigail. Yeah, this is just a quick blocking here of the boots. And as always, let's look for some reference. So, medieval, leather. Kind of like this, I guess. Like this. Look at that. That 3D model. Yeah, that's a 3D model. Or pointy. Get some results close to what I'm looking for. Yeah, so it's something like this, right? There we go. So they were definitely pointy. This is probably the closest one. So one of the things that I want to do here is I really want to like push a little bit of the silhouette of the ankle. Having that as part of the visible elements can definitely help. Overall silhouette. Kind of like one of the lines that we have right there. Maybe we should add them. Go. Questions so far. There we go. Pradmesh says, hello, sir. How are you? I took your rigging course earlier and now I'm learning Gave that. Best learning experience ever. Thanks to remember your sneezing moment. Love you. Thank you. Yeah, sneezes are part of my teaching style, it seems. Keep you guys on the fence. I don't know what it is with freaking sneezes, man. Like right now we're again in allergy season. Took my medicine earlier to avoid having as many sneezes as possible, but it's so annoying, to be honest. Thing about leather is you don't want to make it super ugly or super intense. Then looks a little bit too intense, right? Still want to add some of those wrinkles, especially here on the areas that you should remember. Wrinkles are always going to be on the areas that move the most, right? So areas that don't move too much, not gonna see wrinkling happening. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Yeah, I think it's Teacher's Day in India, right? Oh, we got a big question here. Let's see. If you don't mind, I would like to ask something, Abe. I remember some time ago I asked you if I was training myself by first learning hard surface modeling, since I'm more interested in doing game-ready assets, and you told me you actually recommend first learning hard surface. I've been wondering, is it because you think it teaches proper topology, and then that teaches you where to cut corners, figuratively, to optimize topology for game assets? Yeah, no, it's mainly because it's easier. It's easier to learn how to model, I don't know, like a phone, or like a TV screen, or like a radio, right? Like, it's a lot easier to follow a tutorial or follow a process and get that like nice result. It keeps you motivated. It allows you to understand things like the basic tools, extrusion, bevels, edge loops, all that stuff, and then you can incorporate all of that information into more organic stuff. That's the challenging thing about teaching, for instance, sculpting. If I'm teaching you how to model a guitar, right, I can say use or create a vertex at this XYZ position, and then extrude it 10 units to the left, and then insert an edge loop at 50%, and you can follow those instructions perfectly, and you're gonna get the exact same result. With sculpting, I cannot say that. Like, I cannot tell you how much pressure I'm actually using on my pen, or the kind of like view that I'm like picking with this character, right? So it's a lot more organic, and that's why it can be a little bit difficult to learn. I was I don't know who I told this earlier this week, but I was telling them that when I first learned Zbrush, I hated Zbrush. I hated organic sculpting because of that. Like, I couldn't understand how to follow a specific process and get to the result that I wanted. So yeah, that's why when you're like learning about 3D, usually you start with like a DCC application like Maya or Blender, and you learn like the basic constructions of things, and then you jump into organic sculpting, because it definitely requires a big leap of or like a steep learning curve rather, when learning this kind of like stuff. But yeah, it's more what you said right there: inorganic versus organic. Not sure what I'm doing with these boots, to be honest. Look very crappy. I like the front part of them. Don't like the inside part as much. This part right here, where it meets that thing. Don't love it. I'm not sure if I need to exaggerate it more. Maybe I need to. How do you pose your character with accessories? Do you pose it then sculpt the texture with high poly? No, it depends. If the accessory is a solid accessory, right? Like a belt, or like a weapon or whatever, I just pose the body of the character, and then I pose the accessories afterwards. But if it's attached to the character, then yeah, you're gonna have to deform things a little bit and just modify them. I think we need a sharp border, so I'm gonna use my Damien standard here to create somewhat of a sharp border to really indicate that this is there. Find the proper letter for like lip, and then with trim dynamic, I'm just gonna clean some of the shapes. Yeah, that looks way better. Can we have a better look at your brushes, please? I don't have... I'm just using Clay Builder, man. I'm not using any fancy brush right now. Is there a specific brush that you're curious about? I don't have one. Mike says, hey, I just want to say thank you for amazing tutorials over the years. Your introduction to Zbrush was a game changer for me, and I still come back to the series when I need the reminder. There you go. Thank you, my friend. Thank you, thank you. I'm glad that that the information that I've been sharing has been helpful to you. That's my main goal. My main goal is to share all of this like things and principles with you, my friends, so that you can make amazing things. How many VRMI? Video RAM? I have 16. RAM, I have 64. How many VRM? At least, like, if you can get 12, that's great. 8 is probably the bare minimum that I would recommend for 3D work. Less than 8, and you're going to be struggling with some softwares, like Substance Painter, for instance. Are we going to do chainmail retopology? Dude, I've mentioned this before, man. You don't do retopology for chainmail. You just keep it as it is. That's it. You don't need that. Here, let me show you. So let's say we're doing, I don't know, this Helix 3D. Actually, yeah, that's fine. Let's do the Helix 3D. I'm going to go initialize. And it's very important that we keep this guys as square as possible, right? So I'm gonna really increase the amount, something like that, right? So as you can see, most of them are relatively square. I'm gonna make this a polymesh 3D. Let's say this is a shirt or a weapon or whatever, and you want to do chainmail. So what you're gonna be using is is it a ray mesh or is it I always forget which one it is. We're gonna use dynamics of division, no smooths. Is it nanomesh? No, it's micromesh. Where is micromesh? Micropoly. There we go. And then we go for like the chainmail. There we go. There we go. So as you can see, that's our chainmail right there. Correct? If you want to use this, if you want to render this, or if you want to like 3D print it or whatever, you don't retopologize this. This is your high poly. You just say here, apply. And yes, this is very heavy. This is 2 million points right now for every single loop. But I can take this and I can render this as chainmail. You want me to see? You want to see how this is done? Desktop for now. Let's call this chainmail spiral. Let's go to Blender so that you guys don't say, oh, you never use Blender. You hate Blender. I don't hate Blender. Love every software. Oh, here, desktop. No. Of course you would not use this for games. No. Of course not. No, that's the thing. Like if you want to use chain or if you want to do chainmail and it's going to be for games, you're going to bake that down into a texture. You're not going to be using this geometry. Of course not. There we go. So you can see every single chain link is there. We can shade smooth, right? And we can even render this. So let's add a quick environment texture. Then on the material, a new material. Let's say make this metallic. Lower the roughness. Change the color a bit. Right? And we can go to like cycles. So that's chainmail. And we got what, 2 million polygons. I'm not even sure how many like millions of polygons we will have right here. But this is actual geometry, right? Like this is true geometry generating all of the information that we want or that we have on the scene. If you want to have true actual geometry, There you go. Like it's here. Like that's what you do. You just export the high poly, and this is your chainmail. If you want to make it optimal, though, you just texture this. Like you generate or get a transparent chainmail texture instead of Substance Painter or something like that, and that's it. Just to GPU though. There you go. GPU is a lot faster. Did you guys see there was this demo on the on SIGGRAPH? I think they had SIGGRAPH, and they had this demo where they had a real-time denoiser. So right now, for instance, I have denoiser turned on, and you can see that there's a little bit of like calculation being done. So I move the camera, and then a couple of seconds later, it just like settles, and that's it. But they're using AI to sort of like predict what the denoiser is going to look like, and it just moves like very, very smoothly. Really impressive, to be honest. Really, really impressive. Like I can definitely say that Blender has the upper hand compared to Maya in this sense, like the real-time visualization. Like this is not something you could easily do inside of Maya with all of this like ray tracing and stuff. So yeah, pretty cool. What graphics cards do I have? A 3080 Ti right now. I want to get a 5080 soon. Just waiting for a good discount. You can bake them. You just use it. Yeah, exactly. No. So no, you can bake the low poly. Here, you guys want to see that? Let's do that as well. So I'm gonna export this. This is the low poly, right? So go here to desktop. Let's call this low poly chainmail. I'm not sure if we have UVs. I hope we do, because I don't want to do UVs on this. Yeah, there we go. They're not perfect, but we do have UVs, it seems. So let's see how this looks in Substance. Oh god. And I think we're gonna finish here, by the way, because I'm really hungry now. So I'll show you how to bake opacity, and then we'll call it a day for now. So let's go desktop. Low poly chainmail. There we go. And let's do 4K. We definitely need 4K to have a good amount of resolution. We're gonna go to our baker here. Gonna set this to 4K as well. Bring in our main chainmail object. This one. There we go. There we go. Yeah. Let me actually. That's a great idea, Mango, because we're gonna be doing some heavy baking here, and I don't want to lose all of the progress. We had good progress. We did the belt. We did more like work on the head. Let's save this. Ignacio. Let's close Zbrush for now. So the only thing that you need to change here, this is very important, is we need to bake this opacity map over here. It's off by default, okay? So I'm gonna set this to 16x super sampling, and let's do a bake. There you go. So again, you can see the UB is not great. It's not great, but it should work. Let's try it, and if it doesn't work, we'll go back to... Nah, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. The UB is horrible. Now, the good thing is we can like fix this relatively quickly. So I'm just going to bring in the object real quick. Mail viral. I call this? The name that I use for this. Viral or something? Low poly chainmail. There we go. Go here. Go to UV. And let's just do an unfold. And Control L. So this is the problem, right? Like one of the problems is the fact that yes, we're going to be able to unfold this thing, but it's such a long island that that we're not going to have any resolution. So this, my friends, is one of those situations where cutting this into multiple pieces is actually not a bad idea. So I'm going to add multiple cuts across this like section right here. There we go. And now if we unfold this, well, the unfold is already done. So pretty much the only thing I need to do is the layout. There you go. So we're gonna have more space on the elements. This should work a little bit better. Say file, export selection, desktop, OBJ, if I'm not mistaken. So let's check OBJ, low poly chainmail. There we go. Yes. We go to Substance, edit, re-import mesh. And we bake the textures again. Oh, wait, something's... Did I move this? No, I didn't move it. Let's just try it again. New. Select. Low poly chainmail. Open. 4K. Okay. Scarf. Do mesh display. Stuff to etch. Export again. Edit. Re-import mesh. There we go. Takes 4K for the chainmail spiral object. There you go. Now we turn on opacity. 16x again, and we bake. So yeah, as you can see, the information is a lot cleaner, right? We get a nicer distribution of the results, and the ambient occlusion is going to look great. The elements are going to look great there. And then we're going to have the opacity. That's the opacity right there. The only problem is if we go to paint mode, you're not going to see the opacity. We need to do a couple of things. First of all, you're going to go to material here. You're going to change this to the PBR metal with alpha test or with alpha blending. Either of those is going to work. We go to the textures and settings as well. And we're going to add a new opacity channel. So here on the channels, we need to add the opacity channel. There we go. And I believe here, yeah, opacity is already there. Why are we not seeing the opacity then? I'm just going to add a fill layer. Turn on opacity, and on the opacity, I'm just going to look for the opacity map. And there we go. So now this thing is transparent. So I'm just filling in the opacity map with a transparent effect. So now this is game ready or game optimal chainmail, because we are, what's the word? We are using transparency to bake all of this information down. If we then go, for instance, to the material that we created the other week, the gold material, right? Look at that. That very, very nice effect on the whole thing. And the cool thing is we can keep texturing. So for instance, if I add this bronze like layer here, add a black mask, we can add a generator, and we can add our typical sort of like dirt generator, right? And we can introduce dirt in between the links, right? Because all of this information is baked in the links of the element. And this is going to be perfectly fine. Like this is super, super light. Like you can see, like the screen is not even like struggling, because this is the low poly version of the element, and we baked all of the chainmail information. Transparency is a little bit like costly, not super costly, but it's going to cost you a little bit on performance because you need to calculate the whole thing. But yeah, that's pretty much it. This is how you would bake down opacity into this element inside of Substance Painter. Let's see. In my very honest opinion, baking a marmoset over Substance is overrated, especially for game assets. Overrated? What do you mean, Topi? Like, do you mean that it's better to do it at marmoset, or is it better to do it at Substance? Overrated. I think you mean it's overrated on marmoset, or that's the thing that I don't. I think it's overkill in marmoset. Yeah. Again, and I've mentioned this before. For 90% of the assets that you're gonna be doing in your day-to-day stuff, Substance is like awesome. It's perfectly good enough. Like you don't need anything else. But if you start getting into like more complex stuff, that little extra 10% can really help you out inside of a marmoset. Like the cages, the offsets, the skews, like you have more control. And there's one very important thing, Topi. Marmoset does have some maps that Substance doesn't. So if you go here to Substance, to the baker, you only have height, bend normals, and opacity. That's it. Like these are all of the maps that you're gonna get. There's no more maps. Inside of Marmoset, there are other maps, and you can split like the light information. You can split the specularity of things. Like there's a couple of extra little things there that are really, really handy. So again, 90% of the cases, Substance is going to be way, way more than enough. But for that extra 10%, especially when you get into like higher like levels of quality and polish, you can definitely do that. Can you tell us what a resume should look like? I think many people struggle with creating resumes. To be honest, and I'm going to sound very, I don't know, it's going to sound bad what I'm about to say, but I haven't had the need to use a resume a lot. Like the last time I sent my resume was for Think Tank, like a couple of years ago, or like 1 year ago, when I started as a mentee over there, as a mentor. And it's very simple. Like I just did my position. Yeah, as Jakarta is saying, portfolio speaks, your trajectory speaks, your reputation speaks for itself, right? So if you have a like in my case, I have a presence online, that's more than enough. Like I don't I don't use resumes as much. But just look online. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of content creators as well that show you how to do a proper resume. That should be more than enough. So yeah, that's pretty much it, my friends. Today we had a chill stream. Good questions, good stuff, right? A couple of little tips here and there. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. I know usually we go for a little bit longer, but today I'm really hungry. I want to get some lunch and I wanna do some more stuff. But I'll answer a couple more questions before we go. So Solid Mango, I don't have that crystal, but that's an easy exercise. You should be able to do it yourself. Just a quick sculpt on the what's the word, on Zbrush, and then quick retopology, and then you should be good to go. Let's see. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, it seems like we don't have any more questions. So that's pretty much it, my friends. Thank you so much for your time, for being here. Hopefully you learned a couple of things here during the stream. And I'll be seeing you back very, very soon, okay? Have a great one. And don't forget, always learning, always improving. See you next time, my friends. Bye-bye.